You're 24 years old, sitting on your couch at 11 p.m., scrolling through your phone. You see a post. Someone your exact age with a portfolio worth $80,000. You feel that specific kind of sick feeling in your stomach. Not jealousy exactly. Something closer to dread. Because you know the math. You know that if you'd started 5 years ago, even with small amounts, you'd be somewhere close to that number too. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow. You've told yourself that for 3 years now. Ask anyone why they haven't started investing, and you'll get the same answer almost every time. I don't have enough money to start. And on the surface, that sounds completely reasonable. Investing requires money. No money, no investing. Simple. Except it's not true. Not even close. And the actual reason people delay investing has almost nothing to do with how much money they have. Today, we're going to dismantle the real reason, the one underneath the excuse, and show you exactly what it's costing you for every single year you wait. I'll start investing once I make more money. This might be the single most expensive sentence in personal finance, repeated by more people than any other financial myth in existence. It feels logical. It feels responsible, even. Why would you invest $50 a month when you could wait 2 years, earn a higher salary, and invest $500 a month instead? Surely waiting and starting bigger beats starting small and slow. Here's where it gets really interesting, because the math says the exact opposite, and it's not even close. Compound interest doesn't care how much you invest. It cares how long that money has been invested. Time is the entire engine. Not amount, time. Someone who invests $200 a month starting at age 22 and stops entirely at 32, just 10 years of contributions, then nothing else added for the rest of their life, will, at an 8% average return, end up with more money at age 65 than someone who waits until 32 to start and then invests $200 a month every single month for the next 33 years straight. Read that again. The early investor put in $24,000 total. The late investor put in over $79,000 total. The early investor wins, not by a little. The 10 years and done investor ends up with roughly $507,000 at 65. The 33-year straight investor ends up with roughly $396,000. Less money invested, more money at the end. That's not a typo. That's what time does that amount can never do.
So if the math this clearly rewards starting early, even with tiny amounts, why does almost nobody actually do it? Because the real obstacle was never the dollar amount. It's something far less obvious and far harder to admit out loud. It's that investing requires you to take an action today whose payoff you cannot see, feel, or experience for decades. Your brain is simply not built for that trade. This is what behavioral economists call hyperbolic discounting. Humans dramatically undervalue future rewards compared to immediate ones, and the further away that reward sits, the more irrationally small it feels to us. $50 sitting in your checking account today, available to spend on dinner this weekend, feels real. $50 invested today, which might be worth $1,100 in 40 years, feels theoretical, almost fictional. Your brain isn't doing math wrong. It's doing exactly what it evolved to do. For nearly all of human history, resources that weren't used quickly were resources lost to spoilage, theft, or a tribe member who got to them first. Delayed gratification over multi-decade timeframes simply never existed as a survival strategy. We are running 200,000-year-old software on a financial problem that didn't exist until about a century ago. This is why I don't have enough money feels true even when it isn't. It's a more comfortable explanation than the real one, which is part of me doesn't believe this will actually matter. Nobody wants to say that second sentence out loud, so the brain hands you the first one instead, dressed up as practical wisdom.
There's a second force working underneath the money excuse, and this one is even sneakier because it looks like responsibility. It's the belief that you need to fully understand investing before you're allowed to start. You need to know what an expense ratio is. You need to understand the difference between a Roth and a traditional account. You need to pick the perfect fund. You need to know exactly how much risk you can tolerate. This sounds like diligence. It's actually perfectionism wearing diligence's clothes, and it is one of the most effective procrastination devices ever invented because it feels productive. You're not avoiding investing. You're researching. You're being careful. You're doing it right. Except research has a sneaky property. It can expand to fill unlimited time because there's always one more article, one more video, one more opinion to read before you feel ready. The goalpost of informed enough keeps moving, precisely because it was never really about information in the first place.
Let's make this concrete, because abstract psychology is easy to nod at. Real numbers are harder to ignore. Say you're 25, and you decide to invest $300 a month into a basic index fund, averaging the historical 8% annual return. By 65, you'd have approximately $1,049,000. Now, let's say you wait just 5 years. Same $300 a month, same 8% return, but starting at 30 instead. By 65, you'd have approximately $691,000. 5 years of waiting. The difference? $358,000. Let that number sit for a second. You didn't lose 5 years of contributions, which would only be about $18,000. You lost $358,000 because those 5 early years would have been compounding silently in the background for the next 35 years after that, growing completely on their own. Wait until 35 instead, and the number for the same $300 a month drops to roughly $441,000. Wait until 40, and it's around $275,000. This is the part almost nobody internalizes. The cost of waiting isn't linear. It accelerates. Each year you delay doesn't just cost you that year's contribution. It costs you that contribution's entire remaining compounding lifetime. Here's the deepest layer of why people don't start, and it's the one almost nobody talks about, because it's uncomfortable to say. Investing requires you to believe, on some level, that the version of you in 30 or 40 years is real. Not abstractly real. Viscerally, emotionally real. Researchers who study this call it future self-continuity, and it's measurable. Using brain imaging, studies have found that when most people think about their future selves decades from now, the brain activity looks remarkably similar to thinking about a complete stranger. Now I can already hear it. Genuinely don't have spare money. Rent, debt, bills, there's nothing left. And for some people, that's completely true. And no amount of psychology fixes a real income shortfall. If you don't have $5 left at the end of the month, this isn't a mindset problem. But here's the test that separates genuine scarcity from the delay disguised as scarcity. Could you find $25 a month if a doctor told you it was required to add 10 years to your life? Almost everyone, when they're honest, says yes, they'd find it. Cut something, adjust something, make it work. That's the tell. The money usually exists. What doesn't exist yet is the belief that the $25 matters enough to fight for. And $25 a month, starting today instead of someday, invested at 8% over 40 years, becomes roughly $87,000. Not life-changing on its own, but proof that the excuse was never really about the number. So how do you actually fix this, given that the real obstacle is psychological, not financial? 3 things that work with your brain instead of against it. First, automate before you feel ready. Set up a recurring transfer of whatever amount feels almost embarrassingly small. $25, $50, doesn't matter, into a basic low-cost index fund, and set it to repeat automatically on payday. The goal isn't the amount. The goal is removing the decision from your future self, who you now know your brain doesn't fully trust yet. Let today's decision protect tomorrow's inaction. Second, make your future self vivid, not abstract. Don't think about retirement as a hazy concept. Picture an actual age. Visualize an actual scene.
what a Tuesday afternoon looks like with no required income. The more specific and emotionally real that picture becomes, the more your brain treats that person as you rather than a stranger you owe nothing to. Third, replace "I need to learn everything first" with "I need to start imperfectly and adjust." Open the account this week. Put in the small amount. Read the next article after the money's already invested, not before. You will never feel fully ready because feeling ready was never actually the prerequisite. Starting was. Here's the truth underneath everything we covered today. People don't delay investing because they lack money. They delay because the future version of themselves who benefits from that money doesn't feel real to them yet. And no spreadsheet, however convincing, fixes a relationship problem with a stranger you haven't met. But here's the good news hiding inside that uncomfortable truth. You don't need permission, a higher salary, or a finance degree to fix this. You need one transfer, set up today, for an amount so small it barely registers. Because the goal was never the size of that first contribution. It was proving to yourself, in a way your brain will actually believe, that the person on the other end of that money is you. 30 years from now, you'll either be grateful you started today with the amount you had, or you'll be doing the same math you're doing right now, except the gap will have gotten 30 years more expensive. Start small. Start today. Let time do what money alone never could.